You know what's funny about karma? Sometimes it takes 20 years to show up, but when it does, let me tell you about the day a grocery store manager called my 78-year-old mother an old hag, and how that single moment changed everything for him. But before I dive into this story that still gives me chills, do me a favor. If you've ever seen someone disrespect an elderly person, or if you believe what goes around comes around, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you're going to want to follow along for what happens next. And stick around until the end, because the twist in this story, well, let's just say it's not what you'd expect. So this happened about 3 months ago. I was visiting my mom. She's 78, lives alone, stubborn as hell, but still sharp as a tack. You know how it is with our parents getting older. Every time I visit, there's this little voice in the back of my head wondering how much longer she'll be able to do things on her own. Anyway, she needed groceries, and I offered to drive her to this upscale market called Harrison. You know, one of those places where they sell organic everything, and the cashiers act like they're doing you a favor by taking your money. Mom had been shopping there for years, way before it became this fancy establishment. We walk in, and immediately I noticed this young manager, maybe late 20s, perfectly styled hair, wearing this crisp white shirt like he's running Goldman Sachs instead of a grocery store. He's got this look about him, you know? Like he thinks he's better than everyone else in the room. Mom starts walking toward the produce section with her little cart, and I'm following behind, checking my phone. That's when I hear it. "Excuse me, ma'am." The manager's voice cuts through the background noise of the store. I look up, and he's standing there with his arms crossed, staring at my mother like she's some kind of problem that needs solving. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to move along faster or shop somewhere else. You're blocking the aisle." Now, my mother wasn't blocking anything. She was just taking her time looking at the tomatoes, the way elderly people do. You know how they shop. They actually read labels, they check for bruises, they take their time because they remember when customer service meant something. But this guy, he had this impatient energy about him, like my mother's very existence was inconveniencing him. "I'm sorry," Mom says, clearly confused. "I'm just shopping." "Look, lady," and here's where it gets interesting. "We've got other customers who actually spend money here. You come in here every week, buy 3 items, and take up space for an hour. It's not good for business." I'm watching this unfold, and I can feel my blood pressure rising. But my mom, she's from a different generation. She tries to be polite even when people are being awful to her. "I'm a paying customer. I have every right to be here." That's when he said it. The words that still echo in my head. "Get out of here, you old hag. Find somewhere else to waste time." The entire produce section went silent. I mean, dead silent. Even the muzak seemed to pause. I watched my mother's face crumble. Not angry, not defiant, just hurt. Pure, crushing hurt. The kind of hurt that comes from being made to feel worthless in public. And that's when something inside me snapped. I walked over, put my hand on my mother's shoulder, and looked this manager dead in the eye. "Excuse me," I said, my voice calmer than I felt. "Did you just call my mother an old hag?" The manager looked at me for the first time, really looked, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. He was trying to figure out who I was, why I seemed familiar. "Sir, I was just asking your mother to be more considerate of other shoppers," he said, his tone immediately shifting. But it was too late, way too late. "No," I said, "you called her an old hag. I heard you. Everyone here heard you." I gestured to the small crowd that had gathered. "So let me ask you something. Is that how Harrison's Market treats customers who've been shopping here for 15 years? The manager's face went through about 5 different expressions in the span of 10 seconds. Confusion, then recognition, then something that looked like he'd just swallowed a live fish. "Wait," he said, and his voice cracked a little bit. You're David Chen?" "That's right," I said, "David Chen. And this old hag you just humiliated, she's my mother." Now, I should probably explain who I am and why this matters. I'm not some celebrity or anything dramatic like that, but I am the district manager for Harrison Market Chain. All 12 locations in the tri-state area report to me. And this kid, this manager who just called my mother an old hag, he was about to learn a very important lesson about treating people with respect. "Mr. Chen," he stammered, I didn't know." "You didn't know what?" I interrupted. "You didn't know she was my mother, so it was okay to humiliate an elderly woman? You didn't know I was her son, so it was fine to treat a paying customer like garbage?" The color drained from his face. Literally drained. He went from having a normal complexion to looking like he'd seen a ghost. "Let me back up and tell you how I ended up in this position. because it's important to understand the full picture. I started working at Harrison's 23 years ago as a stock boy. Minimum wage, overnight shifts, the whole deal. My mom used to pack me lunches because I couldn't afford to buy food from the deli. She'd come pick me up sometimes when my car broke, which was often. I worked my way up slowly. Cashier, then produce manager, then assistant store manager. Every promotion took years. Every step up required proving myself over and over again. It wasn't handed to me. I earned every single position. About 5 years ago, I became district manager. It's a good job, pays well, and I genuinely care about how these stores operate. But here's the thing. I don't make a big deal about who I am when I'm shopping. I drive a regular car. I dress normally. I don't walk around with an entourage announcing my presence. Which is exactly why this manager, his name tag said Trevor, had no idea who I was. But here's what really gets me. It shouldn't have mattered who I was. My mother deserved to be treated with respect because she's a human being, not because her son happens to be his boss's boss. Trevor, I said, reading his name tag, how long have you been working here? 6 months, sir, he whispered. 6 months. And in those 6 months, has anyone ever taught you how to treat customers? He nodded frantically. Yes, sir. We had customer service training. Really? Because what I just witnessed wasn't customer service. What I just witnessed was cruelty. You humiliated my mother in front of a dozen people because you decided she wasn't worth your time. I could see other customers starting to film with their phones. In 2024, everything gets recorded, and I knew this was going to be a problem for the store if it wasn't handled properly. My mother, I continued, has been shopping at Harrison's longer than you've been alive. She's never caused a problem, never complained about prices, never demanded special treatment. She's the kind of customer every business should treasure, and you called her an old hag. Trevor was sweating now, actually sweating, and I wasn't even raising my voice. What do you think should happen next, Trevor? By now, we had attracted quite an audience. Word spreads fast in a grocery store, especially when there's drama happening. Customers were pretending to shop while obviously listening to every word. Employees were gathering at the edges of the produce section, trying to look busy while watching their manager get dressed down. My mother was still standing, looking embarrassed by all the attention. That's the thing about people from her generation. They don't like making a scene, even when they're the victim. Mom, I said gently, why don't you go sit down over by the customer service desk? I'll handle this. She nodded and walked away, but I could see her shoulders shaking. She was either crying or trying not to cry, and that made me angrier than anything else that had happened so far. Trevor, I said, turning back to him, let me explain something about customer service. Do you see all of these people watching us right now? He nodded. Every single one of them is making a decision about whether they want to shop here based on how you handle this situation. Every single one of them is a potential customer who might decide to take their business elsewhere. And every single one of them just watched you treat an elderly woman with complete disrespect. I pulled out my phone. Would you like me to call the store owner right now? Or would you prefer to tell me how you're going to fix this? Trevor was clearly panicked. He kept looking around like he was hoping someone would come save him. But his employees were keeping their distance. Smart move on their part. Mr. Chen, he said, I didn't mean. I was having a bad day, and I took it out on your mother. It was completely unprofessional. A bad day, I repeated. Trevor, we all have bad days. But you know what we don't do on bad days? We don't take it out on innocent people who are just trying to buy groceries. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're apologizing to the wrong person. My mother is sitting over there, probably wondering if she's welcome in a store she's been shopping at for 15 years. She's the one who deserves an apology. Of course, he said quickly. I'll go apologize right now.
You'll go apologize in exactly the way I tell you to, because your first instinct was to humiliate her, and I'm not going to let you humiliate her again with some half-hearted, cover-your-ass apology. I walked with him over to where my mother was sitting. The entire store was watching now. This was either going to be a moment of genuine redemption or a complete disaster. Mrs. Chen, Trevor said, and I could hear his voice shaking. I owe you a sincere apology. What I said to you was completely inappropriate and cruel. There's no excuse for treating any customer the way I treated you, and I'm deeply sorry. My mother looked up at him, and I could see she'd been crying. That just about broke my heart. I've been coming to this store for 15 years, she said quietly. I've never had anyone speak to me like that, I know, and it will never happen again. I promise you that. There was a long pause. Then my mother did something that reminded me why I love her so much. We all make mistakes, she said. The important thing is that we learn from them. She stood up, extended her hand to Trevor, and shook it, just like that. No drama, no demands for his job, no threats, just grace. But I wasn't quite done yet. Trevor, I want you to think about something. My mother forgave you just now, but that doesn't mean this incident is over. You're going to go home tonight and think about what happened here. And tomorrow, you're going to come to work and treat every single customer, young, old, rich, poor, with the same respect you'd want your own grandmother to receive. Yes, sir, he said. And if I ever hear about you treating another customer with disrespect, you'll be looking for a new job. Are we clear? Crystal clear, sir. 3 months later, and I still think about that day. Not because of the drama, but because of what happened afterward. Trevor didn't just apologize and move on. He actually changed. I started making more frequent visits to his store, not to spy on him, but to check on things. And every time I went, I saw him going out of his way to help elderly customers, carrying their groceries, helping them reach items on high shelves, taking time to chat with them. He turned into the kind of manager I wish every store had. My mother still shops there, and Trevor always makes a point to say hello to her, not because he's afraid of me, but because he genuinely learned something that day about treating people with dignity. Here's what I learned. Respect shouldn't be conditional. It shouldn't depend on who someone is or who they're related to. My mother deserved to be treated kindly because she's a human being, not because her son happened to be the district manager. And you know what's funny? That whole incident taught me something about my own job. I realized that I needed to do a better job of training our managers about more than just sales numbers and inventory management. I needed to make sure they understood that customer service isn't just about making sales. It's about treating people with basic human dignity. We implemented new training programs across all our stores, role-playing exercises, customer service scenarios, the whole 9 yards. And you know what? Customer satisfaction scores went up across the board. Sometimes the worst moments teach us the most important lessons. My mother's 79 now, and she still shops at Harrison's. Trevor's still the manager there, and he's actually one of our best performers. Not because he's afraid of me, but because he learned that treating people well is just good business. And that's the real moral of this story. Karma doesn't always show up the way you expect it to. Sometimes it's not about getting revenge on someone who wronged you. Sometimes it's about giving them the chance to become a better person. So there you have it, the day my mother got called an old hag and how it changed everything. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been in a situation where someone underestimated you or treated you poorly, let me know in the comments. And if you think more people need to hear stories like this, hit that subscribe button and share this video. Because at the end of the day, we're all just human beings trying to get through life with a little dignity. And sometimes that's all we can ask for. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.